Hi, this is David Holmes with the Sunday School lesson for the 24th of May. We're again in the book of Ruth, and our lesson is titled Do the Right Thing, and it comes from Ruth 3, 1 through 11, and 4, 12 through 17. So last week we learned how Ruth accompanied Naomi when she returned to Bethlehem, and apparently Naomi had changed while she had been gone. Due to the struggles that she'd had. In chapter 1, we learned that the people were asking, can this really be Naomi? And Naomi told them that they should stop calling her Naomi and call her Mara instead. So Naomi means pleasant and Mara means bitter. So even Naomi realized that she had changed. So do you think Naomi was being too hard on herself? And so in this lesson we'll see that she, in fact, became pleasant again. So in chapter 2, we read that Ruth went to glean a wheat field. So gleaning was where the poor would follow the harvesters in a field, and they could pick up whatever was left behind. And in fact, the law even required that some places in the field be left for the poor, specifically because of this. Boaz, who owned the field, and was a close relative of Elimelech, who, if you recall, was Naomi's husband, saw Ruth and told her that he had given instructions that she was not to be bothered while she worked. So he kind of had taken an interest in her at this point. He also fed her a meal. And Naomi was very happy when Ruth came back and told her about this because she knew Boaz. So now we go into chapter 3, verses 1 through 11, and it says, One day Ruth's mother-in-law Naomi said to her, My daughter, I must find a home for you where you will be provided for. Now Boaz, with whose women you have worked, is a relative of ours. Tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfume, and get dressed in your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he is lying. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do. I will do whatever you say, Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. Who are you? He asked. I am your servant Ruth, she said. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are guardian redeemer of our family. The Lord bless you, my daughter, he replied. This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people of my town know that you are a woman of noble character. So in this passage, the lesson talks about how the mutual love that Naomi and Ruth had for one another was demonstrated. They both knew that Ruth had to find a husband for them to live. The method they used here may seem a little odd to us, but apparently it was a thing at the time. So I'm not going to go into that in a lot of detail. So let's talk a little bit about the guardian redeemer, right? So Boaz was a close relative, which meant that he could come and buy the land that Elimelech had left, and that in that way he would then be taking care of Naomi. So in chapter 3, the rest of chapter 3, we learn that Boaz wanted to marry Ruth, but there was a closer family member who had the first rights. So when these guardian redeemers came around, right, there was the closest relative had the first rights to purchase the land and take care of the family. And then if they wouldn't or couldn't for some reason, it went to the next person. So Boaz went to him and said, hey, you're the first in line here. You need to go buy this land of Elimelech's. And the relative said, oh yeah, I think I will go do that. And Boaz said, now if you do that, you have to marry Ruth, to keep the family line going. And the man did not want to marry Ruth, so Boaz said, okay, then I will take care of it. And the man turned over his rights to Boaz. Now, Boaz and Ruth's first son would be considered Naomi's son to keep the line of Elimelech going. So now we go to chapter 4, verses 12 through 17. Through the offspring the Lord gives you by this young woman, may your family be like that of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah. So this was another case of a close relative marrying a widow to keep a line going. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. When he made love to her, the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. The woman said to Naomi, "Praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. May he become famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth." Then Naomi took the child in her arms and cared for him. The women living there said, "Naomi has a son," and they named him Obed, and he was the father of Jesse, the father of David. So, surprise ending if you haven't read Ruth in a while. This is how we link everything into David. Ruth's son, Obed, was David's grandfather. And if you keep reading the Old Testament, from this point on, the focus now changes to focus on David. So from this lesson, we see how God's plans may move slowly, but they are pointed for a particular gain, and He will help us accomplish them.